Hello everybody and welcome to Bus Chronicles number 3. I'm Juarez, aka Walter, your historian and aspiring PhD student. So today, this Bus Chronicles is a little fun fact about the 1964 Congressional Elections. Now, 1964, 58 years ago, this was the very last congressional election in which one party would obtain a 2/3 majority in both houses of Congress. What do I mean by that? Well, in the congressional elections of 1964, the Democratic Party picked up 2 seats in the United States Senate, giving them a 68-seat majority. It's nice, isn't it? Wish we had that now, right? Instead of just 50-50 with the vice president breaking the tie. In the House of Representatives, the Democrats picked up 37 seats in 1964, taking their majority to 295 out of a possible 435 seats in the House. So we remember from elementary civics that the Senate has 100 seats, all right? And the Democrats, as a result of the 64 congressional elections, had 68 of them. Their 2/3 majority, 66%. All right, a little bit over that actually. And the House has 435 seats, and the Democrats had 295 of them. My gosh, we had a 2/3 majority in both houses of Congress. That was a veto-proof majority for the Democrats to more or less do whatever the heck they wanted. All right, in the congressional election of 1964, the Democrats completely controlled the federal government. Presidency was in the hand of Democrat Lyndon Johnson. Both houses of Congress were under the Democratic Party as a result of that election. All right, of course, President Johnson won one of the greatest electoral victories for the Democratic Party in history that year against Republican challenger Barry Goldwater. All right. So the Democrats, with their supermajority in Congress, had the ability to override any possible presidential veto. That was going to happen with a Democrat in the White House, along with them. They had the ability and power to pass constitutional amendments, invoke cloture, and thus destroy a filibuster. They could do anything they wanted, all right? Democrats had super majorities in both houses, all right? And that was a remarkable period in American history. They had the power to do all of those things, ladies and gentlemen, because of their super majorities in both houses of Congress without a single Republican vote, in theory anyway. But the reality of it all is that, like the Democratic Party of today, 58 years later, the Democrats back then were arguably just as divided as they are now. You had the liberal, progressive Democrats, and you had the conservative Democrats. At least 10 to 12 of those 68 Democrats elected in 1964, or already incumbent, were Dixiecrats, who of course were the ultra-conservative Southern Democrats, such as Strom Thurmond, James Eastland, and others, all right? Very, very strong conservative Southern Democrats who oppose any and all civil rights legislation, all right? You even bring it up, they're opposed to it. As a matter of fact, the progressive Democratic senators would have likely gotten, and they did ultimately, support from Republicans faster than they did the Dixiecrats, all right? So, with people like Strom Thurmond and James Eastland and, a litany of others, Harry Byrd and a whole lot of them, Southern Dixiecrats, they stood in the way. They were the drain clogs of the Democratic Party back then, all right? So the Democratic Party, in spite of having that great majority, still often found it difficult to get things through because of obstructionists. So if you think obstructionism in the Democratic Party is something new, think again, it has always existed, all right? And had it not been for broad Republican support, all right, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 would not have been possible. All right? But back then, the parties tended to work together a little bit more than what they do today. All right? So I just wanted to share that piece of history with you all, that was the last time in American history that any of our two major parties, the Democratic or Republican, held a 2/3 majority in, as a matter of fact, both houses of Congress, all right, at the same time, all right, as a result of the 1964 congressional elections. Democrats had 68 out of 100 Senate seats and 295 out of 435 House seats. All right, so I just wanted to share that with you. Hope you found it interesting, learned a thing or two from it. Thanks for listening to me as always, and your aspiring PhD student. We'll talk to you at the next Bus Chronicles. Peace out.